I like things that are popular. I like things that are cult hits. I like things that are bad. I like things that are so bad that it's amazing. I like things that feminists aren't supposed to like. I like things that people I very deeply respect dislike. And yet I like all of these things. Because fundamentally, even if it may be seen to others as wrong, it's what we like. And if we're not doing any harm, then the larger question is, what makes it so hard to like bad things? I decided to make this video because a follower of mine messaged me talking about how they are a fan of the DC Expanded Universe movies and how they feel bad about liking those films because they have been sort of critically panned, and so many people have sort of reputed them as being terrible, as being awful if you like them, that's the wrong opinion, and how it is hard for them to enjoy the movie when so many people are putting that opinion out there and saying that they are wrong for liking that movie. And what I think it means to like something that a lot of people despise, especially because I have been so hard and critical on the DCEU. And I just want to say this for that fan and not for the trolls out there who think that sending me messages constantly is a mature way to have a discussion, that one, if you like the DCEU films, there's no problem with that. You can like them. There's nothing wrong with you. You are not a bad person. You are not a shit person for liking the films. You can like them. And two, everyone likes bad things. There is no one out here that doesn't have a movie that is their guilty pleasure. It's something that they kind of get shitted on for. It's something that when they tell people they like it, they're like, oh, that really? Everyone is really having these really in-depth conversations about things that you may have grown up watching it or enjoying, and now you're being told that it is a problem or problematic and so forth. And so people get so caught up in their own feelings that they lose sight of what the argument is and take that upon themselves. They take the label of sexist, racist, homophobic in terms of the criticism towards the film, and if they like it, they say that, oh, you're calling me those things. They're not calling you those things. They're calling the film those things. I have been very hard on the DCEU, and I think, honestly, rightfully so. However, that has not stopped me from paying money to see these films. I have already bought my advance tickets for Wonder Woman. I will probably be seeing Justice League in the theaters. I will probably be seeing Man of Steel too, because I love DC characters. Even though I enjoy Marvel characters a lot, the non-X-Men characters I don't have much attachment to, which is why I don't do comic book movie reviews on things like Guardians of the Galaxy or Ant-Man. The interpretation of Superman, the interpretation of Batman, of Wonder Woman, of Barry Allen, etc. means more to me in how it's done properly than, say, the interpretation of the Mandarin, the interpretation of which generation of Ant-Man we're gonna be getting. And therefore I have much more emotional investment in these DC movies, and therefore when they fuck up or I find fault in their interpretation of a particular character, I am more passionate about it because I have more passion about those characters than I do if they don't get, ego the planet properly. Not to mention that even though I enjoy Marvel films, I haven't gone out and rushed out to see every single one of them. I haven't seen Ant-Man. I haven't seen any of the 2 Thors in theaters. I am going to see Thor 3 in theaters because 1, Tessa Thompson, and 2, Cate Blanchett is hella looking fabulous. And I will say, I may not like Snyder's interpretation of Superman, and I'm very passionate about that, and I believe I'm right, but I have read really good meta from people who do like Snyder's Superman because they feel that by making Superman's heroism darker and having it almost have sort of a bittersweet, he does it in spite of things, and is more dour, that it portrays a more realistic quote-unquote version of Superman who does it out of sort of this deep sense of obligation but sort of feeling weighed down by it. And while I do not agree with that interpretation or analysis, it is a valid one that one can have after watching those films if that's how they think the character can be viewed in this modern time. For me, that is a very cynical interpretation, and I don't think that you need to make Superman as a character that dour to get that point across. But if you attach yourself to that and you like that and you explain it in those kind of terms, more power to you. I don't see anything inherently wrong with that. We're just not going to come at it from the same perspective, and that's really where it needs to end. And I know what it feels like to feel like your opinion is wrong from people that you respect or admire, and you have to kind of reassess yourself and how uncomfortable that can be. So to kind of illustrate that, I'll give you 2 examples of the things that sort of gave me a lot of grief when I was sort of coming up and kind of forming my own opinions of things and kind of dealing with the fact that, you know, I was a feminist, learning to be a feminist, but also just having this really hard time with figuring out what exactly that meant. And the 2 things were the fact that I really liked Sucker Punch, and I really shipped San San. Sucker Punch, of course, for those of you who don't know, was Zack Snyder's film right before Man of Steel. And when I saw the trailer for Sucker Punch, I was super excited about it. I liked Watchmen, so I was really, and I liked 300, even though it's a bad movie. We Hate Movies did a really good podcast episode on that film and why it's so terrible. And even though I have huge nostalgia for it because I do like very bloody action films, their critique is really good and really worth listening to. I liked Watchmen, I liked 300, and I loved the aesthetic of Sucker Punch when I saw the new trailers, but immediately when the film came out, I listened to the Spill.com review of it, and they're talking about how terrible it was, and I was like, oh no, it's gonna be awful. And they came into it, it was the opening weekend. I was a senior in college, and I had just taken my first women's studies course, so I was just brimming with feminist excitement, and I watched the movie and I was just like sucked in. I love sort of like the magical girl dark aesthetic to it. I love that it was like talking about sort of this idea of women being institutionalized and because of them wanting to regain their agency. I love that the whole narrative was about them trying to find their agency. I even liked the dream sequences because it kind of reminded me of the Yellow Wallpaper, and it's kind of like how women would retreat into themselves in order to maintain their own sanity in an insane situation of really how you had to use your own mind to survive. And that very much resonated with me. And so when I walked out of that movie with, you know, a bunch of my friends, and, you know, most of us were queer, so we were like into it. Like, we liked the ladies, we liked the action sequences, we liked the costumes, even though we knew that they were not, you know, battle ready. It was a fantasy sequence, and people were like, well, why would anyone have that in their fantasy sequences? In every fantasy sequence that I've ever had about me being a superhero, I look like Black Canary or Zatanna, because if I could fight crime in fishnet and high heels, I would, because to me that would be dope. And I hate wearing pants, so I wouldn't want to fight crime in pants anyway. Maybe a nice pair of leggings or yoga pants. And so, you know, I was so excited. I really enjoyed it. I had all these really deep feelings about it. And I would go and I would look at all these feminist blogs from feminists that I loved and respected and deeply, deeply wanted to impress. And they were all like, this film is trash. If you're a feminist and you like this film, you're doing it wrong. And I internalized that so hard because I was like, I'm a feminist. I really am. I swear to you. Like, I really like this movie. And I have these feelings. And I didn't even want to talk about it with them because I didn't want to expose myself as one of those bad feminists who'd like Sucker Punch. Even though for me, on top of all the other things I just said, like, it actually had women of color in it. It was talking about something that I thought was very interesting. And while the writing, after having watched the movie again, I know is not good, there is something that still resonates with me when I watch that film. I have the art book for it. I have it on Blu-ray. I just really like the movie. It came to the point for me where it was like, I'm not gonna let this one film define my entire feminist standing. Like, to me, it just became a thought, like, I was making myself cry with agony because I'm like, I'm never gonna be a good feminist because I like all these things that they're saying is wrong. But really, when it comes down to it, there have been plenty of feminist critiques that I disagree with, and I've gotten more comfortable with that as I've gotten older. When I was younger, it was very much like, if these feminists don't like me, then I'm not a good feminist and it'll never work for me. And instead I realized that, like, feminism is so varied and different that just because that's what they're saying doesn't mean that it necessarily applies to me. And that goes across the board in a lot of different critiques, especially when it comes to sort of like books and texts and things like that. Because I gotta tell you, any feminist that tells me that I'm a bad feminist for liking Sucker Punch and they like Gone with the Wind, I'll be like, fuck off. Because I'm like you like a racist fucking book. I like a problematic movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna support Scarlett O'Hara, I'm gonna support Baby Doll. That's just the way it's gonna roll. And it's learning, one, to own the label for yourself, but B, also knowing how to form your opinions well. I can tell you, I could write a whole thing about why I like Sucker Punch and what feminist text it reminds me of and what makes me gravitate towards it in a constructive way. I'm not just going to come and be like, I think you're wrong, you're stupid, blah, blah, blah. You're a racist, you're a bitch, you're the N-word. Because that's immature and childish. If you disagree with someone and you want to confront them, the best way to do so is knowing that you're giving a better argument than them, or at least the best argument you can give. Yeah, like, and I'll admit, I would get emotional. I'm an Aries with a rising Cancer. I am an emotional fucking person. And I basically had to learn that, you know, I could not let their definition of feminism consume me to the point where I was crying about a film. And then when it came to San, that was a rough one, guys. Let me tell you. San was hard because I was a little bit older. Like, Sucker Punch happened when I was like, you know, I was probably 20 at the time. Yeah, because I was 21 when I graduated from college. So I was 20, like, I was still 20 then. And this had been a little bit after that. And I just was so into Game of Thrones. I had read the books so quickly after when the first season started. Like, the first season happened, I read the first book, finished it before the season 1 finale was even done, and I was like 2 books in a couple weeks after that. I was obsessed with the series, and I had really come to enjoy the character of Sansa, as you all know. That's my belle. And I also really liked Sandor Clegane, and I liked their relationship to each other in the text. I liked how he was there to play off her idea of knighthood. I liked how he was part of her growth of realizing that knighthood and kindness and almost all of those sort of what are they called? Those courtly love sort of aspects just were turned on their head by his character and their relationship with each other. And that was interesting to me. As just 2 characters interacting, I enjoyed it. And I enjoy Sandor as a deconstruction of the courtly, you know, Gawain type knight. That's who, to me, like, Sandor is the anti-Gawain, and that's what makes him fun for me. And I, of course, love Sansa. And so therefore, because I liked their relationship as 2 characters who connected, I liked them together, that idea of them together when Sansa was like older. And because I only read smut fanfiction, I'm gonna be real with you, I only read smut because it's fun for me. That's all I can really do. I can't do anything long, but that's all since I was like 16, all I read is smut. If it doesn't have lemons in it, a little bit of lime, I'm not really looking for it, I'll be real with y'all. And so when I entered the Game of Thrones fan base, you know, decades after the book, you know, and all of these feelings had already started simmering up, I had somehow inherited all of this deep, fucked up sexual baggage that had come with being a San shipper. And again, I really wanted feminists to like me, and I really wanted to prove that I was shipping Sansa, but I was doing it the right way, and therefore you could like me and it was fine. And what I had to sort of realize is that, one, there is no right way. And there is no right way to ship something that is problematic. You just ship something that is problematic and you deal with the burdens of it, because part of the reason why you like that ship is because it's problematic. And for me, it was also just a realization of, like, one, the canon text does not promote the idea of Sansa and Sandor in that sort of romantic way that really would make it even more problematic than it is. Like, they're not a couple. George Martin is not putting them together in like sexual ways. Yes, Sandor's attitude towards her is very predatory, but there is more going on there that I think is different from what I think a lot of the antis say. But I think that's mostly in response to the deep hypersexualization of Sansa Stark as a character that Sansa sometimes promotes. And for me, as a fan of that ship, I kind of just had to take a step back and be like, I'm not doing the things that these people are complaining about, so why am I getting involved in these arguments and conversations when I'm not doing it? Because all I'm saying is like, that's not me, I'm not doing it, I'm not treating Sansa like a sexual blah 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 blah. And it's like, I was just getting involved in the argument to defend myself and my own standing within the ship, rather than just being like, okay, they're talking about something else, I'm just gonna slide past this because it has nothing to do with me. I'm gonna go read my smut and live my life. And we allow ourselves to kind of be consumed with everyone else agreeing with our opinions and wanting to make up false arguments to sort of support our own. Like, my arguments for why Sansan was good were dumb arguments, not because liking the ship was wrong, but because I would just use like inaccurate facts. Like, when you want to defend something that's problematic and you bring in bullshit, you're not making yourself look any better. You're just sort of like defending something that's hard to defend badly. And I eventually just had to learn, like, look, I like it, I don't ship it in a way that I think is problematic, more so than it already is. I'm just gonna keep moving. You know, it's not to me the degree of like, you know, it's not like Rump Bell where the writers clearly don't know that or don't acknowledge that there is very abusive levels in there. In the text, Sansan is a very fucked up relationship. Therefore, me ignoring that and pretending that it's not is actually going against what makes the thing interesting to me in the first place, is that it is this kind of dark story between two people who in any other story would be a romantic sort of like, you know, chivalry text. And so for me as a fan, it just came to a point where like, I'm gonna like what I like. And I do. Does that mean that I don't ever like disagree with someone's opinion? No. The Nostalgia Critic's review of Sailor Moon I thought was terrible. I thought it was a really bad review. I thought he really did not understand anything about what made Sailor Moon so special, and that he didn't care. He was just kind of doing it, going through the motions, and obviously hadn't really spoken to people who really cared about it. And it was kind of a very clumsy, poorly done review to me. And I did say that in like a Tumblr post, but I didn't go into his Twitter and harangue him about it, because to me it's like, I said my piece and I knew that he was getting his own in the comment section, and that was enough. I didn't need to go out of my way to confront him about it. You know, Lindsay Ellis, who is someone who I deeply respect and is kind of like, you know, one of my mentors in a way, doesn't like Rent, hates Rent, did a whole really well done video talking about why she doesn't like it and its failings as sort of a revolutionary musical, and it was excellent. Do I still love Rent? Absolutely. Are any of us hurt? No, because it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like, I respect her, and I don't need her and I to like the exact same film for me to feel secure in our relationship. I just today, when I was getting ready to film this review, I was looking at different sites, and this one person, I don't remember their name, had a video about like Riverdale and how it like disrespects the source material and why they care about it. And, you know, I watched the first couple of minutes of it, and basically when he got to sort of like his thesis statement, I was like, I disagree, and I just turned it off. It was like a 27-minute video. I watched the first couple of minutes, and I was like, oh, this is his opinion. I pretty much know I don't agree with it right now. Am I going to watch this whole video just to confirm that I don't agree with him? No, I turned it off, because to me, it's not worth that kind of argument. Like, unless it has to deal with like sexism or racism, homophobia, ableism, something that's really, really important and worth being like, you're being a racist piece of shit asshole, it's not worth it to me. For everyone out there who thinks they can't have a bad movie that they enjoy or bad film that they enjoy, It's just simply not true. You can, and I can tell you by myself, my partner likes Batman v Superman. My partner enjoyed Suicide Squad. I am not out there cutting people out of my life because they don't like Batman v Superman, or they, you know, because they do like Batman v Superman, or they, you know, my brother and I fight all the time about why I like the Tim Burton Batmans more than the Nolan Batmans. And do we hate each other? No, because it's comic book films. These are not holy texts. I mean, to some people they might be, but to me they are entertaining. I like debating about it. I love talking about it. But when we bring in racial slurs and sexist slurs, we're taking it a little bit too far. And so I would say to everyone out there who has an unpopular opinion, you're not alone. You're not alone. There are plenty of people who love what you love. Talk to those people, find them, and have your own enclave where you can debate these things in a safe space. But also don't over-victimize yourself, because I tend to do that. I'm an anxious person. I internalize a lot. And I think sometimes what hurts us the most is that we act as though that criticism is a criticism of ourselves. And it's not. We all like things that we shouldn't or don't do. And unless it's something that's illegal or really morally reprehensible, you're giving yourself way too much stress over it. Like, honestly, if the biggest problem to you and what your taste is that you like Batman v Superman, you are fine. You are doing great. And this is not to say that in a mocking way, but it's to say that as someone who would cry herself to sleep because she was a Zutara fan and she felt like she was being a bad person because she said something stupid about the character of Megan on Tumblr, and like people that she really wanted to like her didn't like her and feeling like a shitty feminist. And like, I remember times literally crying and being stressed out because I didn't feel like I liked the right things. It is not worth it. It's not. And if you know that you are enjoying things in a healthy, constructive way that's doing no harm to anyone else, especially when it's just a show or just a book or just a comic, like, just live your life. You know, I may hate Twilight, but I like Vampire Academy. So I'm not coming out here with some huge caliber of taste. You know, I like fucking Clerks and Clerks 2. You know, I think we just have to realize that, like, we all have opinions, and sometimes you like something that's terrible, but you know what? Sometimes you think they're wrong. Like, honestly, I don't care what is, let me just look. I love Repo the Genetic Opera. Let me see what its Rotten Tomatoes score is. Repo the Genetic Opera has a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes. Repo the Genetic Opera is one of the most amazing, brilliant musical films I have ever seen, and I completely disagree with that 1000%. Everyone I've ever made watch that movie is like, this movie's a fantastic, fucking delicious magnum opus. I'm like, yes, the fuck it is. I have the soundtrack, listened to it a million times, and you see this smile on my face is because, to me, it doesn't matter what any critic says, that film makes me happy. So that's that. Like what you like, don't be a dick, and shit will be cool. Anyway, that's this video. I wanted to say also that the results of the poll came in, and the video that will be coming up will be the top 10 bisexual video. I was gonna post this much earlier. I did a whole video kind of talking about discussion of race, and I just kind of pulled back and said, because I realized it was coming up a little bit too clunky, but I did want to make sure that everyone knew that it's going to be the top 10 bisexual video. It'll probably be up within the next 2 weeks, because I'm really kind of going in depth with it. It's going to be a long video, guys, so I hope you're prepared for that. And then after that, I will do the Buffy video, and then I will do another poll about what you'd like to see next between two, like, more longer form videos. I'll try to make it something lighter and softer than before, just to kind of mix things up. And yeah, that's it. And next video coming up is going to be the long-awaited asexual video talking about Jughead. Yay! If you enjoyed this video, please thumbs up, like, subscribe, and share with anyone you think would like listening to my stupid voice. And thank you so much for watching, and go watch a bad movie. It'll make you feel good.